Throughout history, we've been pretty invisible. How come? Let's go back 120 years.
The decision in 1885 by the establishment not to criminalise female homosexuality, that's had a real impact in how lesbianism has been seen. Because if you think about the history of male homosexuality, a lot of that has been defined because the men's fight was about the law, the women's fight wasn't about the law, it was about acceptance.
Fast forward to the 1960s, and shockingly, things hadn't got any better for us.
What is lesbianism? What causes it? Can it be cured?
The idea is that by more or less punishing all these various aspects of homosexuality which are represented in the patient's mind, you actually weaken the homosexual drive of the patient.
Well, I don't think they are born that way. I think the damage is probably done very early in infancy in some cases, sometimes later.
With academics and scientists talking about us like that, no wonder we were driven underground.
I love going to nice places to eat. I love going to nice restaurants. But you can't do it with a woman because you have to go to an underground place, and they're all underground.
People talked about men being gay, and the word used to be being queer, but they didn't really talk very much about lesbians, girls being gay. And then, at home, I discovered that my sister was gay, and my sister and her chums used to go to a gay club in Chelsea off the King's Road.
I think we should be allowed to go where we like, dressed in what we like, and be accepted generally by society.
That big moment was when a film called The Killing of Sister George was being cast, and my sister became an extra in the film The Killing of Sister George. And that movie, The Killing of Sister George, really brought being lesbian out into the open.
This 1968 cult film featured a volatile relationship between a young Susanna York, seen here, and an ageing lesbian actress, played by Beryl Reid.
Yes, I fancy him. He's a dish. Is that so? Don't, George. You've no right. I've got every right. I'm not married to you, George.
I think pretty much when I was growing up, lesbians were invisible. There weren't any that I could see. I think the first time I saw a lesbian on television, it was Beryl Reid in The Killing of Sister George, and yeah, she wasn't helping.
It was a man who wrote the screenplay for the film, and you don't feel that his aim was necessarily to give the, you know, sort of most elevated picture of a relationship involving two women.
You can always tell a lesbian film directed by a man, it's just so awful. I don't know what they think we do.
Decades before Alison Steadman got to playing Gavin's mum in Gavin and Stacey, she was making history with telly's first ever lesbian kiss.
Really?
Really and truly.
The BBC aired this revolutionary lesbian drama called Girl, featuring Alison Steadman and Myra Francis.
To have something like that happening in the 70s, it would have been pretty shocking. And I believe the producer actually asked to sort of go down on set to watch it to make sure the kiss didn't get out of hand.
There wasn't a butch and femme cliché in sight in this daring step by the BBC.
I feel all warm and safe and tingly.
Girl was very controversial at the time, and according to the British Film Institute, the transmission was preceded by a special announcement by the controller.
I think about my mother, my grandmother watching that. They really wouldn't have known what to make of it.
God, I'm touched by it. I really am.
So finally, after decades of invisibility, we were on the telly and on the streets. And no wonder, after years of enforced silence, we were shouting from the rooftops. And that is arguably where the myth that we are radical and political stems from.
My name's Lisa Power, and I'm a dyke who's been around for donkey's years. I'm pretty much a historical artefact because I'm 64 and I've been out since 1976. When I came out, I was a feminist and a lesbian. I don't think the two things necessarily go together, but they certainly did for me.
Just to even make a declaration as a woman that you love another woman and to live openly that way is political.
When I came out, there were lesbians who were political and politically active and had radical ideas, and there were lots and lots of other lesbians who just wanted to be left alone, to live with their girlfriend and breed dogs in Eastbourne or whatever it was.
Certainly, back in the 80s, That was a different situation, and you saw that lesbians were much more automatically expected to be part of this political force, and the Greenham Common women stereotype came about. But they were already kind of geared up and ready to fight, because just being gay and openly lesbian is already a manifesto.
The political radical myth was further enforced by Greenham Common, where 30,000 straight and lesbian women came together to protest against nuclear weapons.
It was Greenham Common and a lot of those activities where there were a lot of women together and, of course, a lot of lesbians, and therefore, people put two and two together in their heads and go, all lesbians are radical, this is what they do. They like to hang out outside nuclear bunkers and complain about things.
Lesbians are strong characters, and they have very strong views, the ones I know, and I think they are political.
As much as I'm a lesbian, I'm not out there pushing my views on people. That's not how I came to being gay. It was very natural and it was scary, and I think anyone that pushes their beliefs on someone, that's not fair. Everyone should make their own decisions.
I am a political animal and I've always been a political animal. I don't see that as only being about being a lesbian. I see it as being about a whole bunch of beliefs.
I guess I've been a very disappointing lesbian. I'm surprised they haven't taken my full annual membership card off me, because I was so not political or radical when I was a young lesbian growing up. I joined some groups when I was at university, but I've got to be very honest, it wasn't the politics, it was more the girls I was interested in.
Getting political and radical became fairly essential in 1986 when the Tories introduced Section 28. A law which made the promotion of homosexuality in schools illegal. Yeah, you heard that right. Illegal.
Children who need to be taught to respect traditional moral values are being taught that they have an inalienable right to be gay.
A lot of people aren't political until they realise they're being threatened. And that's why Section 28, the anti-gay legislation in the 80s, actually did wonders for making us more politicised as a movement.
A small group of lesbians took the law literally into their own hands as they abseiled into the House of Lords.
3 women gay rights protesters caused pandemonium in the House of Lords when they abseiled from the public gallery onto the floor of the chamber.
Then they dropped in on the national news.
From the BBC, with Sue Lawley and Nicholas Witchell.
It's 6 o'clock. In the House of Lords, a vote is taking place now on a challenge to the poll tax. And I do apologise if you're hearing quite a lot of noise in this studio at the moment. I'm afraid that we have rather been invaded.
Protesting about rights for lesbian and gay people. It's pretty cool, that woman, eh? Yeah, she was. Listening to Desert Island Distance on Sunday.
Thanks to these girls and others like them, who lived up to the political and radical myth, Section 28 was repealed.
The brave women that were making a stand and coming out and being visible at lesbians were generally, I'm generalising here though, but were your activists in dungarees who were making a stand because they had to.
I think that, particularly now where we can get married and gay people can adopt and there's a few more rights available, that people have got a little bit apathetic. I think we ought to keep our eye on the ball, because whatever rights we have, they have been afforded to us and they can be taken away.